how would you just kind of summarize the day, and did it meet your expectations?
That's a good question. Well, obviously we traded Mikkel Boedker. We had really made a hard attempt to once we got to the new year, when we could start talking contract with Mikkel and his agent. I thought our contract discussions were good. We presented him with several different contract proposals in term and dollars, and hoping that we could get him signed. When it became clear that he was determined to hit the free agency market, or at least not prepared to sign with us at this particular point in time, we did what we have to do, and so we got the best deal that was available to us. Mikkel is a good player, but we got two young assets. The one, Connor Bleackley, he has an injury right now. If we don't sign him, he becomes a second-round pick to us. You get a compensatory pick. And Kyle Wood, the big defenseman, I was really looking for a defensive prospect as part of a Boedker deal, and he's a 6'5" right-handed shooting defensive prospect, and that's all he is, a prospect. And Alex Tanguay, he's an experienced guy. He's won a cup. He can help us on the power play. We're not ready to throw in the towel. We still think we have to stop the bleeding and find a way to get some points and win some games. But if we catch a little lightning, I think Alex is a guy that can come in and help our power play at least be a little more creative. So all in all, you always hope that there's a better return. This market was as unusual as I've ever experienced as a manager. It just people were very, very cautious about what they were willing to pay for rental players. So we got what we could, happy with the return given what was out there, and we move forward.
Do you get a sense of why he was reluctant to sign?
I think you should ask him that. Yeah. And like I said, he was a good player for us, but had lived through the trials and tribulations of the franchise, and we certainly wanted to keep him and make him a part of our core group. But hey, listen, that's what makes the world work. He's free in July. We're looking for players who you never know down the road. I have nothing bad to say at all. This is just business and his business, and we wish him well, and hopefully the return we have will help us. It will help us down the road.
With that return, was the intention that you are going to re-sign these two guys?
Resign?
Or sign?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we're certainly going to sign the defenseman, Wood. I mean, he's a good prospect. He's a good, like he said, he's a developing player. The other player, Bleackley, we liked him. The idea that we could turn him into the 53rd pick in the draft if we don't sign him in the draft is attractive to us. But all that being said, we certainly have watched him. He has a knee problem that he's dealing with, so obviously we have to see where that's at. Knowing that we had that fallback if we needed it, that was attractive to us.
When's the deadline to sign him by?
I think it's July 1st. Okay. We don't sign him, June 1st. If we don't sign him at June 1st, we get a compensatory pick, which is the 53rd pick in the draft.
In this year's draft?
This year's draft,
gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And that's attractive to us. But all that being said, we're still going to get to know Connor and see where his knee's at and see if that's something we feel is going to be better for us than that pick.
What about Alex? Do you see a future since he's a pending UFA, or you just got to see how
I think we got to see how the season goes with him. But we could use more skill and more playmaking ability, and he really has done that in the past. Obviously, he's experienced, but that's okay. We could use the experience.
You said teams were cautious this year. Mm-hmm. Any sense of why? What's changed in the market?
I think there's so many teams near the cap. The flexibility they had, the throwing, the prospects and the picks were just not available, and across the board. And you can just see by some of the deals. I mean, you would expect a better return for some of the players. Going into this, I would have expected a better return. But I say that knowing I'm happy with the return we got, because we got a good defensive prospect, which we wanted, and a second-round pick or better if we decide to keep the player. And plus a player that can help us now. So it's not like we're throwing in the towel. We had opportunities to change Chip Chura Nick Grossman and those kind of guys. And we said, we're going to keep them. They're character guys. We want to continue to push forward and try and find a way to crawl back into the playoff run and make it interesting for people. That's our goal the rest of the season.
What would you describe the interest you maybe fielded on Mikkel, since it didn't seem to be a particularly deep rental market, not a lot of names seem to be available? Would you say he was probably positioned as one of the top players that teams inquired about?
I think part of the problem, we've all, we've watched Mikkel, the first half of the season, Mikkel was having a very strong season. The second half, he's had his struggles. It's not unlike Steven Stamkos, and I think about him where he had some contract distractions. They took it away. He's back to who Steven Stamkos is. I do think this contract discussions and for the last couple months have affected his game, but we know at the end of the day he's a good player, and he will be free in July, and maybe he'll talk to us then.
Go ahead.
Do you sense this is an anomaly type year? Do you think there's a changing in the whole deadline day thing? It's been sort of its own animal.
You know what? I think I might have to be like a dozen beer in to kind of try to think about that one, because honestly, I've been 3 days and feeling like this has been surprise isn't the word, but just the grind to try and get something that you remotely like. It wasn't like we had all these different possibilities and let's do this and that. It was just trying to come out of this with a little self-respect. So it was really that hard. I think if you talk to any of these other guys, Brad and the deals he did, and it was hand-to-hand fighting to try and get knowing that you have a good player and who hadn't been playing particularly well at this time, but can help a team if in the right circumstances. And it was hard. I mean, but you got teams right up against the cap, and the guys are making more money, so they have to make the money work. And then, do we really want to give up these assets for potentially a short-term rental player? And consequently, there was much more hesitation. And I say people were more conservative in what they were willing to even talk about.
Can you dive a little more into what you see in his game?
You know what? He's a 6'5", mobile defender. Plays power play at junior. I think at the end of the day, he's going to be one of those big defending, good stick, good hockey mind. There's growing to do. He still has to fill out. He's coming off an injury in the fall. He didn't start playing this year till late October, but we've liked him. Like a year ago, he was a guy that was really untouchable for Colorado, and so that's why we're happy to get a big right-handed shooting defenseman who's finishing his junior career. We can sign him, get him in the minors, and you look at our reserve list and say, okay, there's another small step forward into building our defense.
Don, there were a lot of reports of teams calling you, not necessarily you guys shopping in Mansell, but teams calling you. How real was all that chatter?
There was nothing to it. I mean, Martin is a very good player and a very important player, an important player for any playoff team. So were we getting calls? Absolutely. And that's as far as it went.
But you never thought about moving because of his value to this team.
Well, again, we get calls on a lot of players, and Marty is probably as called at anyone just because of what he does and where he plays and how he is in your lineup. So we like that. We feel we're finally getting some depth in our middle, especially coming down the road. We just don't want to start getting depth and then jet set the one guy that's actually here that's playing really well, and we know we can win with Marty. So it will take a pretty special deal for us to part with him.
What about the other deal of the day, and maybe you can explain what the condition is on that pick? The Plotnik.
The 7th round pick.
Oh yeah. Well, we were the Bills the ball there for about 5 hours, where lobbed out that Plotnikov, and I was like, they're the Coyotes. That was. We actually looked to sign him last summer, Sergey Plotnikov. Dave King, he was in Russia the year before. He's a strong-bodied, hard-working, with some ability. He signed in Pittsburgh to play with Malkin. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it didn't work out. It started out, he played a lot. It trended down. He wanted to go back to Russia at Christmas time. because of the roster freeze, they couldn't do it, and then that window ended. They changed the coaching staff. I think they got mad at him for wanting to go back, and consequently, he's been eating popcorn basically for 2 months. So we're looking at a roster and saying, you know what, he's a left winger. He's kind of a thick, heavier player. The condition is if we re-sign him, we give them a 7th and 17. So it's a really low-cost look at a guy that we've liked. I think we're going to have to give him a little time to get back in game condition, but I'm excited about him. As I am with Yuri Sika, he'll play a little bit more. We've liked him. We need to catch a little fire here and a little luck, and maybe we'll get lucky, and one of these guys will turn out to be
with
real.
The roster right now, I think you're over. What are the rules right now?
Right now, there's no roster limits now. It's cap limits, which is never a problem with us. But you can have 30 guys in your NHL roster as long as they fit under the cap. So.
Okay.
So we've done a couple other deals that are small housekeeping. We're at 50 contracts. We've been able to trade a couple people to get that number down to 47. So we've done there's 2 or 3 guys that are really just minor league things.
And then did you have to make any paper moves to maintain some HL eligibility?
Yeah, the only guy that Craig Cunningham,
okay.
We sent back and then recalled him back. But the goalie, Trutley, is on emergency, so he doesn't count as a recall. So you're allowed 4 recalls after the deadline.
Right, so you've only used one so far.
Correct.
So,
Gaudet went down. We sent Gaudet down.
So
we want him to play more.
So he'll be there for the rest of the year probably. But like a Jeffrey, you didn't have to do a paper move with him to maintain his playoff?
He's one of the players that's departing.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, no one else. I guess, Don, just to sum it up, how do you think today's moves affect the short term and the long term? Because like you said, you're still vying for a postseason berth, but how do you see, is there one that's more attractive, what you did in the short term or long term that you like?
Well, I really do think, our play in the last 2 weeks have made us really just focus on the longer term view. Let's face it, we didn't. I mean, we've added a couple guys that it's sort of swinging the plate on Plotnikov and Sikash but we didn't want to do what we did last year and show the fans last year. They even jet setting some of these guys out for late picks and not bringing anybody back. We're going to do that. We continue to show that we want to be in every game and win as many games as we can. So all in all, I'm happy with the assets we have back. You always ask that question: if we were 10 points better, given the return, would we have kept Mikkel Boedker and tried to see if there was a way to keep him? I mean, it's a hypothetical that we didn't have to face. And unfortunately, I would have liked to have faced that, but the reality is that we are where we're at, and unless we stop the bleeding soon, it's a moot point. So get your assets, continue to build. Hopefully we get something good in one of these players, and then have all your powder ready in the off season. We didn't commit to any other there were things we could have did with Mikkel to bring another player back, like a similar level player. That was, but didn't quite fit what we were looking for in the player. But if we were 10 points better, maybe we would have done that. So we just said this is the best deal for us long term.
With the market as it is for this trade deadline, did you ever consider keeping Mikkel till the summer, maybe trying to trade him at the draft, or do you think the value would have even dropped farther?
If I thought there was a chance that we could have signed him before July 1, it might have given me pause. I did have a late night conversation with the agent last night just to be sure that there was nothing there at this particular point in time that made sense, and so that was very clear that was the message back. And so I said, okay, we're going to do what we have to do. And again, we have nothing. It's business, and I understand it. It's you know what? He's a good player. Has earned his right to be a free agent. We get it. But we hope we're in a position in the summer, like we are with whoever else is out there, to talk about it, because we do have lots of flexibility in what we want to do in the offseason.
Just to be clear, Don, do you think the gap that exists right now, is it still bridgeable, or are you completely turning the focus to next season and
the gap
playoffs in the standings? I just want to be clear where you think, what your gut take is on what the team faces.
With 20
games to go.
It's fairly daunting, but there's still 20 games to go. Like everybody says, well, they're done and let's move on to the next one. But you know what? We still keeping our fingers crossed that Mike can get back. There wasn't a goaltender available out there, so we're keeping our fingers crossed. Louis can keep us in there. We still have the young legs and the experienced, and maybe Tanguay comes. Maybe a couple of these guys are not minor league call-up players that we brought. Plotnikov and Sikash. They're both NHL players. It's not like we're bringing up, like last year, bringing up a couple minor league guys to try out. So that's what we want to try to tell people. Like, hey, we're not giving up yet. Tell us, if we keep that another 10 games, we don't win a game. All right, you know what, Uncle, shoot me.
Are you thinking Mike still sometime this month, or I guess March, right?
I hope this month. Otherwise, we were hoping he'd be back really ready to play. Immediately. It takes time. We hope it's sooner rather than later. Yeah, certainly within the next week or two. We're hoping. We'll see.